Welcome back to the County News Podcast. I'm Nicole Weissman.
And I'm Charlie Ban.
And in today's episode, we're talking to Melody Villard, Commissioner in Moffat County, Colorado, and Sasha Nelson, an Economic Recovery Corps member, also in Moffat County. Charlie, what are you talking to them about?
We talked about the BREC Commitment Coalition. That stands for Building Resilient Economies in Coal Communities Network. It's something NACo's been working on for the last few years, helping coal-impacted communities figure out their economic future.
And deepen their knowledge of economic resilience. As Grace Blanchard talked about, the member of our team who worked with this group, it's about how are you putting your eggs in multiple baskets, economic diversification, and increasingly in the current political climate, it's about how are you preparing to turn the light switch on and off as there is sort of an ebb and flow of investment in coal, right?
Correct. Back in 2020, one of their coal-fired power plants was slated for closure, and the county saw an immediate spike in concern about how that was going to influence tax revenue, employment levels, and it really got the county thinking about what is our future going to entail. It's
great that you talked to folks from Moffat County because that's one of 4 counties that all 20 members of the the Commitment Coalition visited. So they got to see there a repurposed Kmart building that's now a courthouse, and I know we'll be hearing about that, a value-added agricultural facility, a whitewater rafting park, really demonstrating that economic diversification.
That's correct. And a lot of these features you just mentioned from their trip to Moffat County, we feature in County News' Hot Topic on economic diversification. You can check that out online at NACo.org.
Fantastic. Let's hear the interview.
Well, today I'm joined by Commissioner Melody Villard from Moffat County, Colorado, and Sasha Nelson, who is an Economic Recovery Corps fellow. Commissioner Villard, tell me about Moffat County and your background there.
So Moffat County is the second largest county in land mass in the state. We have over 4,700 square miles, and over 60% of our property is in public lands. And we are right in the northwest corner of the state of Colorado, but we only have about a population of 13,000 people. We're outnumbered by deer, elk, antelope, and lots of other wildlife.
And Sasha, tell me about your background.
I grew up in Northwest Colorado, like Commissioner Villard, and actually graduated the same year in high school. And it's a place where you do what you need to in order to live where you want to. And this is where we finally went to live. It's an amazing place.
Tell me about Moffat County's history with coal, both mining and your coal-fired power plant.
Yeah, so Moffat County is home to 2 coal mines and a coal-fired generation station. And we have been in that industry and pretty much sole industry for about 50 years now. That's started the boom, some of the boom and bust cycle in the 70s, early 70s, with the build of the power plant. And we have for years thought that was what was going to be our future. And we would graduate kids out of high school thinking if you could get a job at the plant or the mine, that was going to be a pretty good, solid, steady future for you. And here we are 50 years later and looking at a different future altogether.
What does that future mean in terms of both property tax revenue and employment?
So the property tax revenue for Moffat County equates to about 46% loss in property tax with those 2 closures and the power plant. They are also huge economic loss for our employment. We also employ from the counties neighboring us as well. So Colo, we have employees from Rio Blanco and Moffat, and we also have some Routt County and Moffat County employees in our Trapper mine. So it's a pretty big loss economic for our property tax, but also in our workforce.
Now, a few weeks ago, the White House released an executive order encouraging and laying out some measures that'll help revive the coal-based economy. Do you see that offering any promise to Moffat County?
I know Tri-State was going to look into that a little bit more to see what it means for them, but I don't believe that it's going to be a big help for us. We have had our work through the PUC and Tri-State's electric resource plan, and we have adjudicated a settlement. So we do have some regulations that the White House is looking into, but there's also been some legal standing now with the closures and the settlement that I believe will put us in a position that those are a little bit too little too late.
Describe a little, if you would, for me, what exactly the transition entails financially when you have a closing plant like this.
Well, obviously, we're looking at a loss of workforce and that loss of property tax. And so we actually, Moffat County and the city of Craig, joined in a joint intervening status with the Public Utilities Commission for Tri-State's electric resource plan. And through that, we were able to reach a settlement as the communities. And that has several different components to it. It's not by any means going to replace what we're losing, but it does give us a little bit of breathing room as we navigate through that transition. Do you want me to carry forward? Okay. Some of the components for that settlement are a $22 million upfront payment. That'll be over 4 years, $5.5 million over 4 years. That we are looking to structure into a trust where we would use the interest off of that trust into perpetuity for economic development. But that $22 million would seed a trust for economic development. And then the next portion of that is up to $48 million in backstop payments over a 10-year period after the plant's closure. And that has kind of a sliding scale about how the property tax would have to be offset if what Tri-State is doing isn't able to pay the full sliding amount for that year. Then they would be making that up in a cash backstop, which would also go into that trust. We did just have an announcement on their electric resource plan, and they anticipate that we may not have any backstop payments, which actually is good news for us. That means that we'll have property tax coming in for that. So that's good. Couple other things with that settlement that we were able to negotiate. We're in an over appropriated river basin. And so really important to our community was the augmentation plan so that we could continue to expect growth and be able to have that. And so with the closure of the power plant, we would be able to have deeded augmentation water rights as part of that settlement as well. So that we secure that into perpetuity. And then also has some language in there that provides for some worker communication to make sure that we're communicating on the workforce transition with Tri-State and that they're keeping us in the loop with major changes. And so we're still working through a lot of those details with that settlement. We're meeting with Tri-State frequently to work through some of those key components of the settlement.
Since the late 70s, when construction of the large plant facilities stopped and operations began, there has been a steady decline or retraction of jobs in the region, which I can give something that is in the historical data, which I find interesting. And this is attributed mostly to efficiencies found in the industry. So as the haul trucks got bigger, there were less haul trucks on the road, less drivers needed to drive the haul truck, that sort of thing. But this all got real for us in 2020. Commissioner and I had heard all our live that coal would sunset at some point, and that that might have been 30 years. And now I don't want to reveal too much about our ages, but we've had at least 20 on top of that, and so we had a lot longer life than we initially may have thought too, as mining techniques and commercial prices that made it worth mining and producing power from this coal for longer than maybe originally envisioned. But in 2020, Tri-State's Craig station was slated for closure at that time in 2030. And that's when, folks really started feeling like, okay, this is something we have to focus on, and we need to start thinking about it's going to have, and it became very real. And soon thereafter, there were announcements at Hayden's Excel station as well. And so we've been spending the large part of the last several years regionally figuring out how we move forward and how do we adjust to this economic situation quickly. And so that has brought a regional group together to really think about all of the coal impacted counties and what opportunities do we have, what sectors and assets do we have that we could leverage, and we've been really excited about revisiting our legacy ag industry and our tourism and outdoor recreation economies.
Sasha, describe the Economic Recovery Corps and your role in this process.
So in 2020, when the announcement was made, I was over at the college, the local community college, working as an administrator of an adult learning program. And I'd already been working towards revisioning that program in order to help people upskill, reskill, next skill is the terminology, just to adjust to the fact that our technologies are changing at a very rapid pace. And sometimes we need an extra boost for our skill sets to keep up. And so looking deeply at that programming. So in January 2020, closures were announced. In February, the college proudly announced the new Division of Workforce Education and Economic Development. And then month 3, March of 2020, the whole world was kind of shuddering as this global pandemic came into fruition and sent people home. The region kind of was navigating multiple crises at the same time. And in my landscape at that point, a lot of people were asking me, well, what should we do? What should we do? And I said, well, let's ask the miners and the power plant workers and the people who are fundamentally going to be impacted first and maybe, arguably the most, and find out what they're thinking and what they're wanting for the future. And of course, you could imagine there was a lot of anger, there's a lot of grieving that goes on with that sort of generational change. And that's, still some folks are still in that grieving state. But we asked them 3 times in free annual surveys, what's next for you? And, the final survey, which was partnership between the college, the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment, and the Colorado Office of Just Transition, we were able to reach 64% of the miners in the region at the time. And of those, about 33% or more wanted to stay here. They envisioned, having a reason and a way to stay here. And so that was another call to do what we could to support jobs and to support people who wanted to step away from the traditional workforce and maybe create businesses of their own. So flash forward to 2023, I was working with the regional group as a partner in higher education and learned about and had the opportunity to kind of pivot. My husband and I chose to build our own businesses. At the same time, I decided to put my name in the running for what is now called the Economic Recovery Corps. And this is a federally funded program that takes people like myself and pairs us with host communities. There are 65 of us across the nation in 65 communities in 42 states in the nation. Some of us have left our home place to go to our new location. Some of us, like myself, has stayed where we live. And our task, our mission is multiple, but one of those things is to serve our community in transforming their economies for whatever challenges those communities were facing. And so that's the work I get to do now. It's sort of broadened from just the workforce piece of our economic efforts to, being broader in scope and helping those folks that want to create businesses do that, creating a full, robust entrepreneur ecosystem in the region, helping existing businesses to stay even after coal and helping them to grow and thrive, looking for new opportunities, new kinds of industries that might be attracted to us. So that work, if it allowed my husband and I to stay in the region, we weren't so sure we would be able to. So it's retained a couple jobs anyway. And it's enabled me to approach the work slightly different, but continue in the work, and the pleasure to do that with Commissioner Villard.
Tell me about some of the direct work you're doing with the county on behalf of ERC, in terms of how you're able to apply what you're working on and provide actionable intelligence and support.
Yeah, so I'll start, and then I'm going to ask Commissioner Villard to give you a few more specific examples of how this works. But I'm supporting 3 counties, Routt, Moffat, and Rio Blanco counties, all similarly impact to different degrees. And each of those counties and the incorporated cities and towns will raise up their programs and projects to a membership of local elected officials. Commissioner is one of the leaders of that group. And that body decides whether or not the impact of that project will be regional in scale and vote. And if yes, then they vote for it to be supported by the regional effort. And the consultants, myself being one, a project manager with 30 years of economic development experience and who's International Economic Development Council certified, and a grant manager, the 3 of us go to work with all manner of technical assistance. Sometimes it's simple assistance like creating a letter of support for a grant application that the community is already authoring. Sometimes it's really fine-grained in terms of helping to scope and map out that project so that it's ready to look for funding. Sometimes it's navigating complex capital stack that includes public and private investment in order to see the project fully funded. And so, to see how this kind of plays out, I'll turn back to Commissioner to talk about a couple of projects, one that's finished and one that's, it's getting close to that phase of fully, capitalized.
Yeah, so as we started through the transition process and coming on as an elected official and knowing that we're only here for a short amount of time, we looked at what could we prioritize that we could actually get across the finish line, and what, looking at 46% of loss of our property taxes, which is how we operate, what can we do to diversify a little bit from what we were doing, and then how do we kind of start to take the belt in a little bit without really feeling that pain. And so we had an aging courthouse that was in need of a lot of repairs and didn't have a lot of room for expansion. There was some issues with security and other issues. And so we were able to take a building that had been sitting empty for about 10 years, and that's an old Kmart building. And instead of allowing that to be blight in our community, we were able to convert that into our courthouse and administrative offices. We gained a little over half of the space that we had previously. So we're a little over 100,000 square feet with that, with about 20,000 square feet still to be able to build out. We were able to add a courtroom, court security. We were able to combine 5 buildings into one, which gives us shared efficiencies with our utilities. We were able to put in a small solar field will help offset the utilities with this building. And then the combined security, the court security too, which was kind of lacking in our other building. And so that project really has been something that's been able to bring not only all of our efficiencies into one building, but also create an opportunity to repurpose a building that would have otherwise been blight in our community, and has been kind of a catalyst for our community to start to see some economic development around this property as well. And then the other project that was one of our priorities was taking all of our eggs out of the same basket that we had with energy production previously, and being able to move that into we do have a lot of recreation and opportunity throughout the year that we use our fairgrounds and bring in events and activities, and we're limited obviously by the weather in Northwest Colorado. Yeah. And so we looked to do a multi-purpose event center and event and resiliency center that would allow us to do some indoor arena space that could be converted from sand arena to volleyball tournaments. And so that is the other opportunity that we have, that we've used some Office of Just Transition funds to get started on our design and engineering with that. And then when that's completed, we hope to be able to expand those extra revenue generating dollars that'll be a catalyst for development that'll hopefully see some offset in the property tax as well.
I imagine throughout this whole process, especially since that announcement in January 2020, a lot of your residents are probably a little uncertain about the future of the county. Uh, how have you communicated with them what the county is trying to do to stave off some of those challenges and take more of an active role in your future?
Yeah, so that's been a little bit of a challenge. Our newspapers kind of declined to just once a week now that we get the news out, and for a while didn't have a reporter, and so you would typically see a lot on social media that what they hear and what they share, and that's not always the story. So a lot of it's been that face to face when you run into folks at the grocery store or when you're at school events or community events, and people are just asking what's happening, what's going on. I read this. What can you tell me? And so a lot of the benefit of a small community is we are still running into folks at the grocery store, and we are still being held accountable in those ways of, hey, I want to know what you're doing and how you're doing it. And we post as much as we can and share as much as we can, and whether that gets to folks or whether they are are finding that information, I think a lot of it is still just that face to face down home community that they're hearing it from us, and then being able to reach out to the folks that we know are sharing it in a positive way, and hoping that they'll help get that message out as well.
Sasha, I imagine that dealing with 3 different counties, you might not have the luxury of all that time and all that contact, but how are you learning to communicate what you're working on with people who live in these communities?
Well, Charlie, the regional groups has created the website at northwestcolorado.org. So that was one of my projects last year, was writing web copy to make sure we could, elevate the regional story and honor each of the communities. Pride of place, everyone has a distinct community feel, and we wanted to make sure that was reflected in this website, but also how we're a shared future and a shared past, so that we could really connect as well as exemplify the work. Some of it is individual storytelling, but I know that the regional group is also beginning to lift our heads up on the work just a little bit and start to talk more about it, because we've been so focused on doing the work that we haven't always made time to do that storytelling part. And so, these numbers do fluctuate quite a bit, but around 26 projects in that regional pipeline, around $25 million of grants captured so far, a mix of public and private. That would be a replacement between 400 to 600 jobs, depending again on the particular aspects of each project. And if you take a general economic model, a multiplier effect for a general economic model, we could expect to capture over $2 billion in total capital injection in the region. And those numbers are very fragile because all of those programs and projects, we have to see them finished, right? And so I don't want to get people too excited, but I also want to show and demonstrate we're not talking about chump change. We're not talking about nickels and dimes. We're talking about real investment in our region, real building this region into the future. And I hope people can get excited about that. The final thing is, Charlie, that I also want to just say too, that when I see people in the store, or I hear them light up the media, I try to drop an invitation that the work isn't done. We've only really just started, and anybody and everybody is welcome to join us. In fact, a few of us would like a little less on our plate than more. So we certainly welcome all of our community members to plug in and do whatever they're called to do to help with this. And then I want to thank our regional, our state, and our national partners like NACo. We've had a real winning formula in that we've had planning dollars, we've had technical assistance support, and implementation dollars, and be able to rinse and repeat. And NACo provided some of the pivotal technical assistance for our work and allowed us to learn from our peers and learn from others out there so that we could get really good at this really quickly. And again, the work's not done. The partnership's not done. I just want to say, and acknowledge with gratitude the support that those partners are giving us and telling the story as well.
You both mentioned, the mines and the plant have been part of your lives for decades. Did you ever imagine you'd have these roles where you'd be able to help guide your community's future?
I won't give you my exact answer when I was asked to run for commissioner the first time, but no, I did not believe that I would be in this position, let alone having a part in what's now being called the Moffat model, right? As the Moffat County's elected negotiator for that, no, I did not believe that this would be my role. My real job, my other day job is that we are third generation sheep ranch in Moffat County, and I thought I would raise my kids and we would raise our sheep, and that would be what I would be doing. And so, certainly not on my end.
But here you are. And Sasha?
I'd have to agree with that. No, I boomeranged clear to the other hemisphere. I did my graduate studies in Australia, and honestly, my family was pretty terrified that I'd never return home. We have a myth that our valley is graced with a blessing or curse, depending on your perspective, that once you've lived a full cycle or you were born here in the Yampa Valley, that you'll always return unless you take the adequate dirt with you, so you never actually leave the Yampa Valley. And so if in future my family would like to call me to leave, I think I need to take more barrels of dirt with you, because it's a place I've returned to a couple of times now. And I have to say, there are worse places on the planet to be, but this would not have been in my 5-year plan as, a high school graduate. No way.
That was Charlie's conversation with Commissioner Melody Villard from Moffat County, Colorado, and Sasha Nelson, an Economic Recovery Corps member, also in Moffat County. If you're interested in learning more about the Building Resilient Economies in Coal Communities, or BREC program, check out our website, where you can also find the hot topic Charlie mentioned from the latest issue of County News on economic diversification. All that at NACo.org. Thanks for joining us.